All right, Shay. Not the best way to come into a show. Right off the old, I don't know what you want to call it. I know what I want to call it, but I'm going to try to keep it a kid show.
Yeah, you and I are in about the same boat there. It's just, the last couple of days, obviously, you can deal with, and Bryce Spalding just tweeted this, and I agree wholeheartedly. You can deal with losing to a pretty solid team, just outplaying you. Obviously, you don't love it, but that's something you can live with. Today, it doesn't feel like the Brewers outplayed the Reds. It feels like the Reds made costly mistakes that's going to let the Brewers win this game.
And just as we say that, our infielder that decides to play outfield makes an error. I know everybody wanted to make fun of Trace. Wanted to say that I was a fool. Wanted to say that no big deal. These guys can play outfield. He can't play outfield. He can't play outfield. Bring Stuart Fairchild up. If you're gonna play Senzel in the outfield a decent amount, and that's where you're gonna put him, then I got news for you. You're just doing yourself a disservice. I know things are what's the right term to use here? I know things are kind of in a spiral, Shay, so I'm trying not to kind of go overboard. I know that that's the traditional thing to do as a fan. But this is bad baseball, man. I don't know how else to say it.
And I think a lot of people, and myself included, sometimes we're, victims of being prisoner of the moment. I'm trying my best to kind of analyze this weekend, which has gone absolutely horribly. There's no really way you can spin that. Terrible weekend, but at the same time, not a terrible team, not the end of the season, not eliminated from playoff contention. It sucks, but I think it's important to kind of, I guess, analyze the current situation without letting it impact what's still 68 games of baseball after today.
Yeah. Obviously, as always, I'd like to save a lot of this for the show, so I won't get into too much of it. This bullpen's been great. I know today they gave up some critical runs, but, it's 4 runs, Shay. It's 4 runs. They've given up 4 baseball runs on a day in which we went up against somebody that we should have scored more than 3 runs against. That's just the truth, the facts. I pin most of this right now on the offense. That's where my frustration lies. I don't know. It seems like a critical moment in the season to get cold. That's the sad part, right?
Yeah. 100%. And I think that's the biggest frustration is not that the Reds have gone cold, but that they've gone cold in probably their most important 6-game stretch of the year. And I think that you're absolutely right that, the pitching staff's been good this weekend. You saw Ashcraft give up 1 run. You saw Abbott give up, was it 2 or 3? I can't remember if he gave up 2 and the bullpen gave up 1 or if he gave up all 3. But Abbott pitched pretty well. And then today, Ben Lively was sharp until obviously his day ended early due to a little strain of that lat, we think. And then I thought Law, managed to get through an inning. I thought Jabot looked good. So the pitching staff, I think, has done their job for the most part. And like you said, Corbin Burns is one of the best pitchers on planet Earth. But when your pitching staff only gives up 1 run, you got to find a way to help them out. You got to find a way to scratch across 1 run against Corbin Burns. Same thing with Freddie Peralta, another really solid pitcher, but you should be able to score 1 or 2 off of Freddie Peralta, put pressure on that bullpen, and make Freddie Peralta have to get chased from the game. So I think the blame should be placed on the offense. I think the pitching staff's really shown up and done their job for the most part. I just think, this is a perfect example of the avalanche effect. When 1 or 2 things go wrong, all of a sudden it snowballs out of control sometimes.
Well, nothing like MLB.com having a glitch in their they're not going to let me pull up the Reds game because every time I click on it, it goes to a Blue Jays game. So, good for them.
All right, they do have Devin Williams. They do have Devin Williams getting hot, so if he came in, he would pitch 3 days in a row.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think that 3 days in a row thing. I hope I'm wrong. I think that gets overblown time and time again. He had a very, very low stress outing yesterday. I don't know how many pitches he threw yesterday, but it was not many.
No, I think he only threw like 11 or 12 yesterday.
And his adrenaline is going to get him through this inning regardless. Even if he's a little bit tired, he's going to come into this game with a 1-run lead, and for 25 pitches, he's going to 25 to 30 pitches. He's going to have his what you can consider his best stuff. Now he might not throw the ball well per se, but I would be shocked if he didn't. All right. Listen, we got our work cut out for us. It's as simple as that. Throw the ball to second base, man.
Well,
there you go. Way to learn your shit. Way to pick it up. And a way to figure it out. That's what you do. That's what you do. I don't understand, man. I don't understand how you do this for a living. This is your job. It's the only thing you do. I don't get mad at guys making physical mistakes, Shay. I really don't. Do I get frustrated at times? Sure, but I'm not going to go on a huge rant, hooting and hollering about a guy making like an error in the infield or something like that. That happens. Maybe you drop a pop up or a fly ball or something. Can we get frustrated? Sure. Mm-hmm. But for the life of me, I don't understand, unless he just forgot there was a guy on first base, how you try to throw a guy out at home in that spot. I mean, that just is mind-boggling.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, if it was like, it would have been a tough play to get a guy out at home no matter who it was, but it's not like it was Victor Caratini, Trace, it was Willie Adames. I mean, Willie Adames has pretty solid speed. I don't think if you put Ellie De La Cruz in center field, he gets him out. So it was just a mind-boggling decision on why he even tried it.
Yeah.
And like you said, it ended up allowing Tyrone Taylor to get to second and ended up costing the Reds what could be the game-winning run.
You brought up, obviously, the starters they faced the last 2 days, but today they I mean, what's the excuse now? It's just is Adrian Hauser going to be a Cy Young Award winner now? It's like, is this guy the next guy that we can say that, I don't know. Some point,
no,
we
you're
stop
right.
making excuses about who we're facing, and we stop making excuses about the umpire.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah, no, on his best day of his life, Adrian Hauser, I think, is a slightly above average starting pitcher. And this Reds offense is more than capable of scoring runs against an above average starting pitcher.
All right. I don't know where you're at in the game. I'm assuming you're ahead of me largely because of you're going to be on MLB TV, I'm sure. I am on the old cable package, which means I'm like way behind you.
I just went mid-9, so I'm probably about 45 seconds ahead of you, maybe.
Probably. I'm on a 1-2 pitch with the old Buck Farmer. I guess he's going to get him out right here, and he does. Strikes him out. Good for him. All right. This is easier said than done, but I'd really like for us to make sure that we swing at strikes.
Yeah.
And the changeup that he has is really difficult to hold off on. I understand, but,
Yeah, and we Benavides pinch hit Senzel for Benson, so we do not have Benson in the 9-hole, so it's going to be...
No, it's got Steer, Stevenson, and Senzel.
Yeah.
They'll probably... I would suspect that they'll probably pinch hit Senzel, maybe. Maybe not. I don't know.
I just don't know. Who would they have left on the bench?
I don't know. It sounds stupid to say, but with the right-hander up, there's probably, if I had to guess, there's... I don't know. Am I allowed to say Kevin Newman, or is that too much?
Kevin Newman. Kevin Newman would put the ball in play, so I'd rather him hit if there's a guy on, for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just got a tweet from Old Street Phillips, says, can't wait to hear you tell us to calm down and not overreact to a few close losses on the pod tomorrow. Am I that guy?
I don't think. I don't think it's.
Is he getting me and Nick confused? Maybe, I don't know. Usually I'm not the guy telling people to calm down. That's a new one for me, baby.
You're not necessarily the good cop of Chatterbox Reds, Trace.
No, I'm not. I'm usually the guy that's pretty pissed off around here. Oh man. Well, here we go. You're probably a little bit ahead of me.
Yep. Yeah, I've got Steer stepping into the box right now.
Yeah, I got Williams and walking around the mound. Williams, I should say.
I'll try my best to not spoil anything.
Yeah. You get the poker face going. I'm just in a point where I'm down bad right now. Down bad. Need some help. Maybe Steer will do it. Good pitch. Throw it away.
This hasn't been very fun. I'm not going to lie.
No, I mean, listen. I will talk about it on the show, but well, Williams might be ready to go tomorrow too.
Their infield's ridiculous. I haven't seen them bobble one ball this whole series. I know the one that Monasterio had earlier, but that was a tough play.
Yeah. Take that runner off second base. I don't want to give anybody any hope here. Well, maybe Nick will get lucky and run into one.
Nick Senzel, I mean, he has a couple of the most clutch hits of the year.
You could say that.
So, he had the walk-off against Texas. He had another clutch hit against Washington last week before the break. So,
yeah. Didn't know Chatterbox Reds night was going to be so stressful. Didn't know we were going to have to get a win. It wasn't like a must-win situation.
Right, I was going to say, who'd have thought it'd be a must-win night?
Well, I'm sitting dead red heater. If he throws a good changeup for a strike, then I just admit that I'm out. Dead red heater. I feel like you know something that I don't.
I won't spoil.
If he gets on base, then I will say that you have the best poker face of all time.
I'm working on it.
If he doesn't, then I'll say that I could read you a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do a show.
High drive. Left center It's Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, well, we are back. I would not say better than ever. That would not be a truthful statement. I'd be lying to
No,
you.
we're not.
I'd be lying.
Yeah.
Reds lose 4-3 to the Milwaukee Brewers. They get swept right off of the shutout 1-0 loss heading into the All-Star break, and the wheels feel if they're falling off. That's just the truth. Now, I know that you could say it's a 162-game season. I know you could also say, maybe, Shay, that when August 15th rolls around, July 16th will be long forgotten. I don't know how you feel, but it doesn't feel that way to me.
No, yeah. I see both sides of it, I guess. I think that, I'm still excited in a lot of ways. This is a really talented team that I think still has a very good chance of playing postseason baseball this year. And they have responded well to tough stretches this year. So I think there's definitely a very solid chance that they get out, that they bounce back from this weekend and they play good baseball moving forward, and that we're still having fun watching this team until the end of the year. But at the same point, what you said, somebody said, I forget who it was. Somebody said, I think it was Saturday, about halfway through the game yesterday, that this just getting beat up by Corbin Burns and getting beat up by Freddie Peralta just felt a lot like the 2020 series against the Braves, when we got beat up by Max Fried and then got beat up by, I believe it was Ian Anderson in game 2. And that's really, leaving this weekend, that's a valid feeling to have. It feels like the Reds, they've beaten the Rangers, but that was months ago. They've beaten the Dodgers, but that was months ago. They had a chance to really kind of cement themselves at home against their biggest competition for the division, and playing a good team. They just did not play good enough baseball to win, and that's a concern as we move forward, because you're going to have to beat those teams to get where you want to go.
There's no doubt. It's so disappointing, though. I think what's most disappointing about it is that you can call them bandwagon fans, you can call them fans that are just starting to become interested again. I don't care what you call them; they're important. Having the type of atmosphere at your home ballpark that we've had over the last month, I would call it, I think lends itself to being an advantage over the course of a year. I think it also lends itself just a positive vibe around the city. Again, do I think that the season's over? No, I don't think the season's over. Am I hitting, when I say am I hitting the panic button, I don't mean it as if I'm not a little bit concerned. I'm just saying, I'm not going to say that this team isn't good anymore, or this team's completely a joke, or they were a fluke, or anything like that. I think that they're talented enough to still compete for this division. However, it is very disappointing when we've made this Brewers team look a lot better than they really are. That's what pisses me off. This Brewers team is not that great. You could sit here and try to polish it up however you want and say, oh, they have good starting pitching and this, that, and the X. They're not a great team. They're a good team, but they're not a team that should go in and win. And again, off the top of my head here, we're 2 and whatever against them. It's bad. It's bad. They've come into our ballpark and they've won 6 of 7. Is that right?
Think so.
So they're just not that good.
No,
and
you're right.
and I guess, call it clutch, call it, stepping up when it matters the most. It's disappointing that we've not done that. This team has not done that against the Brewers. There's been 2 meaningful series that this city has gotten up for, and they've gotten 3 of 4 taken from them, and they just got swept. And that's off the heels of having 2 of 3 taken from you at their place. Right. So, again, I don't want to sit here and yell into a microphone and do all these things, but I'm just beat up, man. It's tiring. It's tiresome. And hopefully, I don't know how you right the ship. I guess we can start there. I'll do the box score recap here in just 1 second, but I have on the rundown, who do you blame? Like, what's to blame here? Is it just baseball? I mean, I don't think David Bell, I know he's always like kind of the whipping boy. Like, what's David Bell supposed to do? You know, like, what I guess what is he supposed to do in your opinion? Shay, can he do anything? I'm not trying to be a shill for Bell, but your thoughts.
I don't think this is David Bell's fault per se. I think I think most of Reds country will never be 100% happy with David Bell. There's always something about David Bell that you can criticize, but I don't think really he could have changed anything that happened this weekend. Sure, could he have maybe swapped up the lineup a little more and maybe moved Benson to lead off or maybe tried Fraley at lead off? Yeah, he could have done that, but he trusts his guys. He doesn't want to mess with something that's really worked for 3.5 months, Trace. And I think that at the end of the day, as much as frustrating as this is going to be for a lot of Reds fans that say this isn't a valid excuse, I think the number one thing to blame, quote unquote blame, is that this is a team with a lot of young pieces, a lot of young players that are either getting adjusted to by major league pitchers or major league hitters for the first time, or haven't been in a position where they're, fighting for first place in a division race in mid-July. The Reds have been terrible for a lot of these guys' whole career. And so this is just a lot of young guys that are learning how to play in this situation for the first time. And this weekend they got their butts kicked. And hopefully they learn from it. Hopefully they adjust from it. It's not a fun excuse, but I think what's to blame is the Brewers have guys like Christian Yelich, Devin Williams, Corbin Burns that have won the division title the last couple of years and that have been in that situation before, know how to win big games. The Reds haven't had to win a big game in 5 years.
That's fair. It's fair. Some experience matters, and if you wanted to have the silver lining, as we always try to do sometimes on this show, the silver lining is that this team is getting that opportunity this year. These guys they're getting what it feels like to play in front of sold out stadiums. They're getting to know what it feels like to play in meaningful games. They're not playoff games, but they're meaningful games. We'll see where it goes. Let's do the box score recap here. So for those that don't know, obviously Nick Kirby usually takes great pride in the box score recap. Your boy here has got a lot going on, so I will do my best. All right, let's get into it. Things got off to a pretty good start for the Cincinnati Reds. Joey Votto doubled on a sharp line drive to center field, and that allowed Jonathan India to score. That'd give the Reds a 1-0 lead. That was in the bottom of the second. And then at the top of the third, just like that, Christian Yelich homered on a deep fly ball to center field. That would make the score 1-1. In the bottom of the third, the deep fly drive of the game, baby. Jake Fraley homered on his 12th of the year on a fly ball to right field. And that would make it 3-1 with Matt McLain coming around to score. Matt McLain had a good game. He was 3 for 4, had a run. And things then did not go well for the Redlegs after. In the top of the fifth, that man again, Christian Yelich, he would single on a line drive to center field, and that would allow the game to be 3-2. In the top of the eighth, Owen Miller, I hate to even bring this shit up, Owen Miller hit a sacrifice fly to center field. TJ Friedel thought he was going to throw him out from 600 feet away. That's a little facetious, probably more like 380 feet away. That would tie the game 3-3, but more importantly, Monasterio would single home Tyrone Taylor. And you know why? Because Tyrone Taylor was at second base, and that's because he tagged up on that Owen Miller sacrifice fly that I just said. And I know this game's a long game. I understand that this game can't be won and lost off of one single play. It can't. But that fly ball to center field, you can say what you want. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, I tweeted out. That's what happened. You try to throw a guy out from 380 feet away with a noodle arm, and you don't throw the ball to second base. For the life of me, I'll never understand how that could even cross your mind. I didn't even think for a minute he was considering throwing the ball to home. He got well behind it. I know he got good momentum behind it, but even the thought process. I said this, and it's a little bit of a joke, but I mean it sincerely. I love Jesus Christ. I don't know if Jesus Christ could have thrown him out, Shay. I know you said Ellie De La Cruz maybe would have had struggle. Listen, I don't think anybody was going to throw him out at home plate. Period.
No, I'm with you. And I think, it's just, you got to know the situation. And TJ Friedel's a smart baseball player, and he just made a dumb play. But, Trace, I didn't play a ton of outfield. I was more of a pitcher. But, I mean, you're taught to hit the cutoff man when you're thrown in from the outfield when you're, 7 years old, 8 years old?
You bring up a good point. So everyone wants to yell about hitting the cutoff man. Let me paint the picture, and I don't know if TJ will admit to this, but if TJ did admit to this, I would actually say, Shay, that I actually understand the mindset. Mm-hmm. If TJ didn't know or forgot there was a guy on first base, the cutoff man is irrelevant in that situation, right? So he's just going all out to try to throw the guy at home because what's it matter? The guy scores from third base, nobody's on base, no big deal. Well, newsflash, there was a guy at first base. So maybe the only way that you can convince me a little bit, Shay, that TJ Friedel's a smart baseball player, and I'm not saying one play makes it to where you're an idiot baseball player, but this is a close one. This one's at the top of the list. If you were to say of all the things you could possibly do in the outfield to make it to where one play causes you to be a pretty dumb baseball player, this is probably the play. But let's just, for instance, say that he didn't know a guy was on first base. That's the only excuse I can think of that would make that play make somewhat sense. The cutoff man in that situation is irrelevant, and I'll tell you why. Because you're not even throwing the ball to home plate. You're not trying to hit the cutoff man in that spot. You know in your mind that unless I am very close to where I know that I could probably get that guy out at home, I know that the go-ahead run is at first base. And not only is he at first base in a situation where if he gets a second, he's the go-ahead run and he can score from second because he's in scoring position, but you also can keep the double play in order. So, all of that combined, it makes it impossible, almost impossible, to not throw the ball to second base. Now, if he would have hit the cutoff man, Shay, to your point, if he'd have hit the cutoff man, maybe the guy stays at first base. I don't think so, in my opinion. I think the guy that was at first base, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he read the throw and he's seen it was high, so he took off. I think the guy at first base was trying to make a play and he was going to tag up regardless. And I could be wrong on that. So if he had hit the cutoff man, to your point, Jay, he would have kept him at first base. But you're not even throwing the ball home in that spot. You're throwing the ball to second base. And it's a loud crowd, so I'm not gonna get on the middle infielders. But sometimes the middle infielders can do a good enough job to kind of let the outfielder know where his play is. Sometimes. I'm not suggesting that that's their fault, but sometimes you can start screaming at your outfielder, 2-2-2-2-2-2-2, because you want to make sure that they know that's where they need to go with the ball. But that's here nor there. It was a really bad baseball play, and you know what? It bit us in the ass. It just bit us right. It bit us right where it hurts. And would we have won the game if he would have thrown the ball to second base? I don't know. Am I blaming the whole entire game on TJ Friedel? I'm not. But not to sit here and say that wasn't a defining play in this game. That was the defining play in this game for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you're right. The only reasonable explanation is just he didn't remember there was a runner on first base. But that goes back to my point of just knowing the situation. The Brewers have a perennial all-star closer in Devin Williams, and that is the go-ahead run in the eighth inning of a game that was inevitably going to be tied. And you just cannot, in that situation, let that runner get to scoring position unless it's off of a hit. If it's off of a hit, what can you do? But in that situation, you could have kept him at first base. Or like you said, if he was going regardless, if it was just like I'm trying to make a play, trying to catch him off guard, maybe they get him at second base. I don't know. But I think it's just a play that can't happen. And there's egos all over baseball at every level, high school, college, pro. And outfielders always want to be the guy that guns the guy out at home or guns the guy out at third. You always want to be the guy that, you have the cannon arm and you made the play. TJ Friedel's a great center fielder. He's played center field very well all year. He knows what his arm is capable of. I think he knew when he caught that ball, Trace, that there was no way he was getting that runner at home.
That's why if we had and I would love to know if there was a reporter that has a high enough baseball IQ to ask the question. My guess is that there's not. I'd like to know if he knew there was a guy on first base. I think the more I think about it, that's the only explanation in the world. It's the only explanation in the world that makes sense. It's like, you know what? I had a brain fart. I forgot there was a guy on first base. I was selling out to try to throw the guy at home because I didn't think that it didn't matter. And that's the only thing that makes logical sense. Outside of that, you're an idiot. And that's as nicely as I can put it.
Right. The only other thing that could even pop in my head is I just didn't think he was going to actually tag up. And why would you bet that play on that? It's like, He has above average speed. It's a tie game in the 8th inning. Like, what do you mean you don't think he was going to tag up? So, I mean, that has to be the only explanation. Is just like, I went all in for the play at the plate because I couldn't remember there was a guy with above average speed on first base.
Yeah. I agree. So, all right, let's jump down to it. I think there's some things to get into that are somewhat interesting. Right now, I know the chat's down. I'm down. Pretty disappointing, to say the least, in regards to the way this team has played and competed. And you know what? It'd be one thing, like you said before, it'd be one thing if it felt like we got beat and we just played, they were better than us. They're not better than us. They're not better than us. No one can convince me that the Brewers are a better team than the Reds. It's not going to happen. Now, they've shoved it right in our face, so maybe I should start to believe that. But for the most part, I really don't believe it. I don't believe it. Panic mode. I think it's right. It's rightful to have panic. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know from a player's perspective that they probably shouldn't feel that way, but there has to be an incredible sense of urgency. And the scary part with all of this is this: baseball is one, and just like golf, it's a game where when you start trying to play harder, Shay, or when you try harder, whatever term you'd like to use, it almost makes it worse. And that's where I fear this team might go down. Like, it's like, okay, we're everybody's trying to do what we did earlier in the season, right? Which is just, you don't have to do it by yourself, Let the next guy pick up the slack. If you get out, no big deal. Now, Spencer Steer, I want to bring up quickly. Hopefully the monkey gets off his back. He kind of got a little bit of a break. It was bad luck, good luck, right? Hit a ball incredibly hard. Bad luck, he hit it right at him. But the ball went right in the guy's pocket. I don't know if you watched the replay, but it literally went right in dude's glove and it popped out. So he got a hit. Maybe him getting on base stirs something up for him and he kind of gets it going. But I guess on a scale of 1 to 10 before we jump into Lively, panic mode for you in regards to the Reds?
It's not a fun answer, and it's not going to be a very controversial answer, but I'm going to put it right at a 5. I think there's definitely stuff to be concerned about. I had somebody tweet me last night, Trace, and was saying basically something along the lines of, let me see if I can pull it up. But I think, he was saying, losing to the Brewers just absolutely sucks. It seems like we mightn't have gotten exposed against Burns, off speed and down. According to him, we chased those pitches a lot. He seems to be right. We have stuff to fix. I completely agree with that. There's absolutely stuff to fix. There's absolutely holes on this team. We are not the Atlanta Braves. This is not the best team in baseball right now. But at the same time, there's 3 rookies in this lineup, 4 if you count Will Benson, which I do. Will Benson had 25 plate appearances last year, so in my mind, he's still a rookie. Sure. They're currently adjusting to tweaks that pitchers are making to get them out. Matt McClain had such a great stretch. Now they're pitching him a little different. Ellie De La Cruz, they found out he can hit fastballs 500 feet, so now they're throwing him a lot of curveballs and changeups. And plus, obviously, everyone in the chat knows this. Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo are not in this starting rotation, and that is a big, big, big blow to the success of this team consistently. So I think it's fun to have expectations again. I'm a little worried because, like I said earlier, you have to win games like this to get where you want to go. You have to beat good teams to be a great team. But again, they are the youngest team in baseball. I'm not full-blown panicking yet. I'm concerned, but I'm not panicking.
Yeah, I know many people think that this will be where I say that I'm a 10. It's all perspective. And this isn't the best, perhaps, example, but I harken back to when, and I know many Bengals fans probably remember this vividly, I harken back to when the Bengals were on a comeback against the Dolphins. And if they would have come back and beat the Dolphins, they would have never gotten the first pick of the draft. If they didn't get the first pick of the draft, they weren't going to get Joe Burrow. That's probably a huge, huge win. I don't know if the Reds are in a situation where they get that big of a win, but the point I'm trying to make here is that I would love for them to sweep the series and they go out and maybe they're buyers at the deadline, but maybe this is all hypothetical as hell. So I'm not banking on this. Maybe this team struggling a little bit before the trade deadline actually in the long term helps this franchise. And I'm not suggesting they were going to trade CES or they weren't going to trade, Chase Petty, or they weren't going to trade one of these, top-level prospects to go and try to get somebody because the fan base is ravaged and they're screaming and yelling about needing arms and we got to win now. Maybe in my mind, I'll convince myself to make myself feel better that that's part of something down the road, that we look back and we think this is a little bit of a blessing. Maybe we realize that it's an opportunity, that there's guys on this team that are movable, and the fan base is probably realizing that. And maybe in the end, in a year from now, we look back and we're like, you know what, we were babies last year and we gave it a run for its money. Ultimately, we know this. I'm not telling you to use something you don't know. This team is good. They're not great. And they're not a team, in my opinion, that has any chance in hell to win a World Series. And you could say whatever you want. If you don't win the World Series, Shea, you're ultimately going to be a little let down at the end of the year. You could be proud of what you did. But ask any Bengals fans how they feel after the end of the year when you don't win at all. Yeah, you've had a great year. You know what I'm saying? And I get people might say that's a terrible idea, and I'm not suggesting that you can't have fun and you can't enjoy the season. But if you don't win the World Series, ultimately, there's only one team that does it. You're going to feel disappointed. So I'm kind of in my own mind trying to tell myself, listen, we've had unbelievable success this year. We'll see where it goes. Don't put so much emphasis on the fact that this team is supposed to win it all, because we know they're not. So just enjoy the ride a little bit. I'm trying to do that. It is disappointing, though, to watch the Brewers, who, again, I'll say it for the 15th time, there's nothing special about them.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I think with the talent the Brewers have right now, it's a team that should be fighting for the final wild card spot. It's a team that's solid, but they're not. I don't think they're a top 7-8 team in the league. This might be a weird analogy, Trace, but kind of how I feel about the Reds right now. It reminds me a lot of a high school football team I covered last year, Phil Kinley High School here in Southeast Kansas. It was a team made up of a bunch of sophomores, really young varsity team, and they punched way above their weight. They went 7-3. They made the playoffs. They won their first round playoff game with a team full of sophomores. And then they got their ass kicked in the second round against a team that went to the state semis. They got their butts kicked, and their fans were upset. And it was hard to watch them just get absolutely demolished on the football field. And it was hard to watch a tough game like that after the year that they had. But now they're coming back this year. Those sophomores are juniors and seniors now with a year of playing varsity football, making it to the playoffs, getting used to playing in those big games, and they're expected to be one of the best teams in the region this year. So going back to your point, this Reds team, they are not the Atlanta Braves. They're not supposed to be the Atlanta Braves. But playing in games like this, winning games like this, losing games like this, it's all a learning experience. Next year, Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, Will Benson, they're all going to have played in a division race over the course of their rookie season, and it's just going to make this team better.
I hope so. We'll find out. I mean, you don't know until you know. Lively, I put pressure on here. Lively was throwing the ball really, really well until he obviously got injured and wasn't able to come back out. The reason I put pressure is because of this. The front office already was in a spot where they felt like they needed to go get a starting pitcher, probably to try to compete for the division this year. We'll see how the next 2 weeks go before we write home and say that we're buyers or sellers, or maybe we just stand pat. It does, in my opinion, put Kral's group in a little bit of a pressure situation that if Lively's hurt, not able to throw, I don't want to say you have to do something, but if you're going to act like you're going to compete for this year and that's the message you're going to say to everybody, you almost have to do something now, right? I mean, am I off on that? I know you could maybe make the argument you can go down, and Chris is saying Lively isn't hurt. It was cramps per Sheldon.
Yeah, that is what Charlie Goldsmith just tweeted. It doesn't seem like it's a huge long-term scare. It's Lively himself said it was dehydration. So what Burns was suffering from on Friday night?
Maybe I'm just naive, but I'd have to have a nutritionist tell me how in the world. And again, what I'm getting ready to say is a little like, Ben Lively could be treating his body unbelievably well. But it's just like, what's amazing to me is guys can go play an NBA season, run up and down the floor for 82 games, and we don't have guys that are sitting out games because of cramping. But we have a guy that comes out there once every 5 days and he's dehydrated and he can't throw for more than an hour. I mean,
it's
am I being like the old man yells at cloud right now? Like what the hell are we? What in the hell is going on?
Well, and it's like, I mean, I'm not in Ohio right now, but it didn't seem like the weather was crazy, higher than normal this weekend. And it's like Burns suffered from a little bit of dehydration on Friday night, and then Lively goes through the same thing today. I mean, it was a 5-day All-Star break, Trace. I mean, how out of routine can you get in 5 days?
I just don't know if you pitch once every 5 days how you're dehydrated. I could be completely off base.
And Lively just came off the IL, so you'd think he had finally just gotten back into his rhythm. So I don't know.
But anyway, okay, well that's good news then. I thought he was actually hurt. Usually guys that come out of a game in the 4th inning and can't come back out and they were throwing as well as he was throwing, then they're hurt. So I'm glad that I think it was Chris. Appreciate Chris putting that out in the chat there. So I don't want to spread false information during these post-game shows. You don't really get a chance to kind of spread your wings and figure things out on the internet and or the post-game shows. But okay, any other final thoughts on your end in regards to just I guess the game and or the position that we are in as a franchise with the Cincinnati Reds?
I guess this kind of ties into the game, but something I said earlier today, Trace, that I really liked. John Sadak and Barry Larkin were talking to Rhett Lauder, the Reds' first-round pick I believe it was the 4th inning of today's game, and just something I really liked. One of the questions they asked what his pitching style was, and I've heard a lot of pitchers, both high school, collegiate, even guys in the minor leagues, say I'm a strikeout pitcher, or I pitch to contact, or I try my best to limit walks. I loved Rhett Lauder's answer. He said, I attack hitters' weaknesses. He said he adjusts as the hitters come up, and he does whatever he has to do to get each individual hitter out the most effective way he can. I think that's just a really cool pitching mentality, and I think it was just a great example of why he was so dominant at Wake Forest. I'm very excited to see him pitch, whether it's in Dayton or Chattanooga or wherever he's going.
Yeah, I mean, Rhett and Ty Floyd, I think, are two guys that the Reds thought they had a pretty high floor. As far as they're certainly older. They're college arms. It's kind of different than drafting some high school kid that you think might end up being maybe one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And Rhett and Ty both could possibly end up being the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. I'm not saying they get, but it's inarguable to say that they have a pretty high floor. That's what they have. I think that their goal as an organization is obviously to get these guys through the system I don't want to say as fast as they can, but pretty quickly, because this Reds window of opportunity with this young core group is let's be frank, it's going to be the next 2 to 4 years. And then let's hope that this Reds franchise does a good job of drafting and developing and continuing to do what they've done to get themselves in this point, and you keep, you rinse and repeat and you replace. I mean, a great example is the Braves obviously have done a little bit differently, but hell, the Braves, Dansby Swanson, a guy that, grew up in a Braves uniform, goes to the free market. The Braves probably didn't think that, I don't want to say he wasn't worth what he was asking, but the Braves knew they had a guy behind him, and sure enough, the Braves got a guy hitting like .315 at shortstop every night, and he looks like he's the part. So that's what this Reds franchise is going to have to do, and, I like the direction this franchise is headed. I'm not going to sit here and act like, it's doomsday just because they've played poorly against Milwaukee. And who knows, maybe they'll make a fool of me and they'll win 10 straight again and something crazy happens and we do forget about these games. But I have a pretty strong suspicion at the end of this year, when we look back on what could have been the difference, it's going to be this past week and a half. I hope I'm wrong, but I have a pretty strong suspicion that's going to be the case. All right, Chatterbox night. So it's tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, something we've been talking about for quite some time on this show is tomorrow night. I think the last time I checked, there was 30 tickets available. I threw a little bit of a sale on there for those that are trying to get in here last minute. It's $70, I believe it is now. I should probably know that, but it's $70, and you get dinner and you get drinks. So it's a pretty good deal. And there's going to be some people there that you might want to meet. And if, like I said, if you don't want to meet anybody, that's fine too. Just come hang out, watch the game from a place that you probably don't get an opportunity to watch a game from usually. I've never watched a game from there. It's not really a place, Shay, that you can just get a ticket to, per se.
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody that I see tomorrow comes and says hi. Clearly, I hope you say hi. Happy to see you. Hopefully the Redlegs win. We can kind of all have a laugh about the last few days, and we get Milwaukee's tail out of here, and we can start doing some real winning, Shay.
Yeah, here's hoping they put up 6 on Logan Webb tomorrow. Like, I mean, I'm rooting for everyone on Chatterbox tonight to have an 8-1 lead in the 4th inning, and the vibes are flowing, and the vibes and the beers are flowing alike.
That is very much true. I am going to, let's see here, on the fly, try to get this graphic up. I'm not going to be able to get the what's the start time tomorrow? It's a 7:10 start, I think.
I believe so. Let me double check that for you.
I think it's a 7:10 start, but
yes, 7:10.
Nonetheless, tomorrow's starters. Hopefully, we get a good outing from Williamson. We need one. And it's not because this staff has had poor run of late. They've been unbelievable. For everybody screaming and yelling and telling me that we have to go get a starting pitching and that's the only reason we're not going to be able to win the division. Boy, oh boy, that's not looked good over the last few days. That's not looked good. Logan Webb's going for the San Francisco Giants this year. He has a 3.4 ERA and 19 starts, 126 innings, 127 strikeouts. So not, what would I say? Not super dominant, but not somebody that we expect to be able to probably go out and hang 8 or 9 runs off. Hell, we might not be able to hang 8 or 9 runs off of the local beer league pitchers anymore, but you get my point.
Yeah, no, Trace, Logan Webb's a lot. Honestly, he's a better version, but he's a lot like Adrian Hauser. Sinkers is his primary fastball, and then sliders and changeups to try and put guys away. But Reds will be maybe it works out for the Reds because it's going to be a very similar pitch mix that Hauser threw today. So,
all right, fair enough. Well, here's the deal: we as always have, as you know, a podcast available every morning. I want you to do me a favor. If you've not already, please go leave a like, like the stream. I should say that. I mean, this is god awful by me. We need likes. I'd like to think if we can get to 100 likes, I can guarantee a win. I'd like to think if we can get to 100 likes, we can guarantee a win. Can we do that? Can we end this show on a positive note? This is where Mouse Cop needs to come in. Please. My God, if you've not liked this stream, please like it now. If we get over 100 likes, let's get off of here with a positive mindset. I'm trying to pick myself up. I'm down in the dumps. I'm in the gutter. Hopefully tomorrow we get to the ballpark. The vibes will be high. As Shay just said, maybe the beers will be flowing. There'll be Montgomery Inn up there at the river deck. Free, by the way. Well, free as in you have to buy the ticket, but you get my point.
You're making me jealous.
Right. Montgomery Inn. Beer, cookies, Reds baseball. I think it's $70. Yeah, who knows? Who knows what happens? We're going to need to pump the basketball up at some point. I'd like to dunk a basketball here soon. Boy, oh boy, has it been a while. I don't know. We got a long way to go. But as always, a reminder, I'm trying to do like 9 things at once here. Please do me a favor. Go download, rate, and review Chatterbox Reds if you have not already. And most importantly, I want to remind everybody, I know people are going to say, Trace, oh, you're being soft. You're being soft, Trace. You're usually the voice of reason. I'm not trying to say that there's not time to panic, because I'm going to be quite honest with you. Kind of is. But that's only based off of the fact that you believe that the time is now. I'm not saying the time's not now, but I want to remind you, we were supposed to win 64 games. Does this suck? Yes, it sucks. Did I think that we probably had an excellent opportunity to take our 2-game lead heading into Milwaukee and come out after we went to Milwaukee and after they had to play us at Great American Ballpark with like maybe a 4 or 5 game lead? Yes, I did, but that's not what happened. Still got a long way to go. We'll see what happens. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. I appreciate the hell out of you watching this show. And from Shay and myself, have a hell of the rest of your Sunday. And as always, go Reds.